A lot of the time, as you've probably noticed, I like to address subtleties because I feel that deep awareness tends to bring forth a lot of things that are subtle, that are not immediately obvious when we're going through life on autopilot. So today particularly I want to address the fact, for me at least, that fast thought is not the enemy here. You know, when you develop or are part of participating in a movement that's called the slow thought movement, you immediately can get into this sense and get into the mode of thinking that we're fighting against the opposite of slow thought, which would in this case probably be fast thought. So let me define things for some of you who may be unfamiliar with what the slow thought movement is all about. But essentially, what I've diagnosed over the past year is that we pretty much live in a fast thought society where we're so on the go, so on the run that we've lost touch with the capacity. Not to say that the capacity isn't there, I'm just saying we've lost touch with it, with that capacity to observe how our thoughts are being constructed, where they're coming from, and so forth. So we're pretty much, we're running with thoughts. Thoughts are the basic building block of pretty much everything we're doing in terms of action, in terms of daily behavior. Thoughts are essential. It's one of the primary building blocks, not the only one, but primary building blocks to pretty much engineer our way and navigate our way through life. So what's happened is we've taken that process for granted. And a lot of our thoughts are borrowed, not that that's negative, but they tend to be so borrowed that we've lost touch with who we are. And we have been so conditioned that we have failed to take a hard look at how that conditioning is impacting the way we think, the way we act, the way we perceive reality. And so the slow thought movement is basically an intention behind it in many ways is to say, hey, let's slow down a bit. Let's make time, let's create space to observe, to bear witness to how we think. And also, of course, to observe the particular thoughts that are flowing through the mind. But more importantly, as I've always stressed, which makes it even maybe a little more confusing, this movement is not so much about thought at all. Because thought is pretty much a surface aspect of the mind. And what I mean by that is really just pretty much up here, and it's essential, but there's something much deeper, many levels, many layers to that state of being that I've referred to. So, getting back to my topic, fast thought is not the enemy. That's not the point. You know, what happens often is that we tend to look for an enemy. We tend to look for what we need to get rid of, what we need to fight against, what we need to push away from our experience of reality. So this whole need to identify an enemy is coming from somewhere, and I invite you to explore where it's coming from in yourself. And I don't want to make any sweeping generalizations on the subject. From my own observation, I must say though, that this desire to define the enemy, this desire to get rid of the thing that we feel is in the way, is pretty much an essential aspect of everyday life. We all are looking, we all have goals, we all have ideas of who we want to be, and we all perceive certain things in the way. And so essentially, when you're trying to become more aware and when you're trying to be more settled in your body, fast thought may seem like it's in the way, and it is in many cases for us. We're so distracted by external stimuli and a lot of ideas that sit in our head that are simply not vital. They're there, they distract us, they deviate us from our deeper plan or design of our life, and yet they're not really core. They're not really coming from the gut of our existence, if I might say, or from the center of who we are. So yes, it may seem like it is the enemy, but it's not, in the sense that essentially the slow thought movement is a balancing effect. We're pretty much observing that, hey, we've gone too far. We've gone too far in all this analytical thinking and dissecting and in this consumption of information for this. So it's gone to such an extreme. We can see that every day there's more information and people are just reading more and more and more and more. And that's not negative. Okay, we all need to learn. We all need to specialize. We all need to develop our expertise. And yet we've neglected that core other aspect of who we are, and that's why the slow thought is important. It's a balancing effect. It's not to say that fast thought is the enemy, that we need to all stop, relying on external information or reading books or listening to other people's ideas. But what we need to do right now, definitely to heal that neglected aspect of ourselves, is we may need to withdraw from a lot of the things that are distracting us, to regain that center, to restore that vitality, to contribute to our own healing. We have to create that space and kind of to restore that balance, because we've gone to one extreme. We've gone to a whole extreme of losing touch with who we are. So sometimes it takes another extreme measure to recreate the balance. But we must, in my opinion, keep in mind that there is no enemy. And that's a native saying, actually. It's a native expression that I've come across where in some traditions of the native traditions, where they exclaim and they pronounce that there is no enemy. And I think that's really essential in deep awareness. We tend to create enemies. We tend to have ideas that have some truth to them, but actually start to work against us. I had a recent conversation with someone who was adamant that, that there is a higher self, and I can understand that, because I think we all have a sense of our deeper potential on this planet to expand, to grow, to break through so many limitations. And yet, that very ideal can work against us when we start to demonize the very, what I say, maybe not saying it right, demonize. What I mean is condemn. That's probably the better way of saying it. Condemn those aspects of ourselves that we feel are in the way. I'm really excited about an event we're going to be launching next week. I'm doing this video right now in February, so I'm not sure when this video will be launched, but the summit events that we're going to be running monthly throughout the year of 2011, which is about holding the space for this conflict and this tension. So that's my thoughts today. Food for thought for you, and definitely share your ideas on the Slow Thought website, on Facebook, and I look forward to keeping in touch. All the best.